Welcome to Undaunted, where the Undaunted untold stories and Starsa. Let's begin.
Tonight, Ambazonia stands on edge across towns and villages in the south.
Sovereign silhouette, the emblem of Ambazonia. From the azure embrace of the Atlantic reflecting from the Amber's Bay, the iconic Fako Mountain presents a silent, stoic grace, carving a silhouette against the sky. This towering sentinel is more than a geographical marvel. It is the heart of southern Cameroun, the stoic guardian of Ambazonia, a symbol.
Well, tonight, Ambazonia stands on edge across towns and villages in the southern Cameroun. The air is thick with uncertainty from unexpected security measures and shifting narratives to troubling incidents whose motives remain tangled in competing claims and unanswered questions. Communities are watching the roads, listening for movement, and waiting for clarity as old tensions resurface and new contradictions emerge. On one side, colonial administrators continue projecting calm. On the other, the realities on the ground tell a different story, one marked by fear, resistance, and the quiet determination of the people refusing to be subdued. Amid rising anxieties, questions deepen. Who truly controls the night? Whose interests are shaping the violence we see? And how do Ambazonians navigate a landscape where every event carries more than one possible meaning? Tonight, we break down the layers from SOP to Nkambe to Buea and bring you the voices, the analysis, and the truth waiting beneath the surface. This is Undaunted, and we'll get the prime headlines now. And the these are the prime headlines for tonight. Ambazonia State Army claims defensive action in SoS, where 2 colonial military forces were eliminated. Colonial DO imposes night motorbike ban in Nkambe despite claims of total security. French Cameroon's justice system in turmoil, with Gendarmerie blocking prosecutors' inspection in Buea. We also see on the home front decapitated body found in womb, raising questions over motive, identity, and hidden interest. On the African scene, Tanzania diverts Independence Day fund amid unrest and calls for nationwide protests. And on the global scene, Pope Leo begins his first overseas trip with peace mission to Turkey and Lebanon. We'll get into the full briefings of Undaunted tonight. The Ambazonian State Army, the ASA of Donga unit, has released a video from SoS village today, Tuesday, 25th November 2025, claiming responsibility for what they describe as a defensive operation against 2 members of the Cameroun military. Now, according to the ASA commander speaking in the footage, the 2 La Republique terrorist soldiers were neutralized on Ambazonian soil after trespassing with intentions to extort and intimidate, according to these fighters. The fighters can be heard asserting their presence in SoS village, and it was in direct response to repeated reports from locals who, according to the Ambazonian State Army of Donga, have been facing harassment, illegal taxation, and threats from colonial government forces. Now, in the video, fighters stand over the bodies of the slain soldiers, colonial soldiers, displaying a posture of victory and defiance.
Life. Momo. Bombo. Life. Najenda buya moya njenda baba geto. Life. Life. No life. Najenda buya mo life. Donga life. No shati. Jenda buya moya njenda baba geto. Yes, donga. Momo. Jet the monster. What are the grass? Momo.
Well, they emphasized that these actions serves as a warning to what they call the colonial regime, stating that any trespass aiming at tormenting the sovereign peoples of Ambazonia will be met with equal or greater force. The Ambazonian State Army further insisted that their operation reflects their mandate to defend Ambazonian communities, protect lives and property, and deny occupation forces the freedom to prey on vulnerable Ambazonian civilians. The actions of the ASA, the Ambazonian State Army, reminds Ambazonians that their struggle is ongoing, reiterating that they view such confrontations as the price for resisting oppression and enforcing sovereignty. Welcome once again to Undaunted News. Well, tonight we'll be speaking with a carefully handpicked panelist. And of course, top of that list is our revered legal mind, Barrister Team Mbeseha. Good evening, Barrister.
Good evening to you, and thank you for having us.
We also have the Secretary of State for Self-Defense, Commander Sylvester Zama. It is good to see you more often on the program, Commander. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening.
Oh, well, we're supposed to have our third guest to help us dissect some of this security reports. Our third guest, who's supposed to be the Commander Elvis, the captain of the County of No Return, Buea County. But in his absence, we'll get into the details of this report. Now, Since the report we just took is one of self-defense concerns, I'll start with you, SoS Sylvester. The Amazonian State Army says that the two La Republic soldiers were trespassing because they were in southern Cameroun's territory with the intent to intimidate and extort civilians as per usual. Now, can you help Ambazonians to understand operational rules of engagement that guide when the Ambazonian State Army choose to neutralize versus repel colonial forces? Could you help us dig into that a bit?
Good evening, viewers. Our soldiers on the west, on the front, know that once they see an enemy, if that enemy cannot be captured, that enemy must be taken down. These particular soldiers have been on the road for many years, extorting money from our citizens. 500 for pedestrians, $1,000 francs for bike riders, and then 5,000 for vehicles. So this is not, it wasn't a tenable situation. They've been extorting this money for a while. And every time those who are not paid, who can pay, are picked up and sent to Bamenda. Sometimes some of them are forwarded to Yaoundé, where they are threatened to pay more money. If, otherwise they'll be accused of harboring or being members of the Ambazonia fighting force. So these people had to go because they were consistent and continued threat to our people.
Looking at the fact that this operation has fueled debate across the territory of Ambazonia, what message does the Ambazonian State Army intend to send to the colonial administration and to Ambazonian civilians by responding forcefully to these incursions? What is the message they're sending to both the colonial administration and the Ambazonian civilians? Is this part of a broader shift in the strategy of Ambazonia's corridor?
It's not really a new strategy. We've been at this for a whole 9 years, close to 9 years now, and we know any soldier, any person who comes into our territory with a gun, with bullets and military fatigue, they are ready for war. They are not coming to visit. They are not coming for dinner. They are coming to kill. They are coming to maim. They are coming to steal. And this extortion, we will not accept it. We haven't accepted it, and we will fight it at any phase of it. These people have to understand that they cannot come on our territory and treat our mothers and daughters as though they were animals and go back free. We have to stand up like big boys in our territory and fend off and defend our families and citizens. And these people have to know and really understand that they will either go in a body bag or they will not go at all. We are here. We are not backing down. We've been at it for 9 years, as I said. They were expecting this to last for 2 weeks. We are still going, and we'll go as long as they keep coming, and we will keep mowing them down as we should. If your grass is getting tall every day, you have to cut it down. As soon as they keep coming, we will be cutting them down until they will understand that we will not back down. If they don't want to be down there with us, they should be able to go back where they come. They should surrender or elope. They should AWOL from their army. What are they fighting for? They are not being paid, and they have to extort money from our citizens. We are not the government of La République. We did not employ them. They are there as invaders. They are there as vermin. We will kill them as soon as we see them. So far as you are carrying a gun, you are going around toting and threatening our citizens, we will send us ASAs to deal with that. And they're dealing with it in a very professional and competent manner. We want to thank them for protecting our citizens. We want to thank them for being there and sacrificing their own life on time for the revolution and for the independence of Amazonia.
All right, SoS Zama, we could hear you loud and clear all what you've said. Just a point of notice, your video has been frozen. We'll give you a minute or two to get your video fixed correctly, but we can hear you loud and clear. And I'll be heading over to Barrister Mbeseha. Now, looking at this from a legal standpoint, within the context of an occupied territory, How should Ambazonians interpret the Ambazonian State Army's claim that they acted in self-defense against colonial forces entering SOP village to extort civilians? And does international law recognize such defensive actions by liberation movements resisting foreign domination? Tell us about this, Barrister.
Well, unless you have no use for an army, what's the role of the military of any nation that are supposed to protect the borders? When you cross the borders and even go as far into the villages, as soon as you cross the border, you are a legitimate target. Because he didn't cross the border in a civilian attire. He was dressed in uniform. He had weapons with him. And so he is a legitimate target. They did not need to wait for him to get into the village of SOP. If they caught him anywhere, legally, they're supposed to take him into custody. But since we don't have places to keep them, they are free to use whatever force it is to resist them. Because those guys were armed. What were they doing in arms? They are looking for people to kill. They are looking for people to extort by force. Not by their own physical force, by force of the arms they carry. Which arms they did not buy with their private money, they are arms given to them by their own government. And so if the ASAs see them anywhere in Ambazonia, as we have been told to us, they are trespassers. They are being trespassers, they are legitimate targets. We can all congratulate our ASAs for being vigilant enough, because they don't owe an explanation to anybody except to the Ambazonian government. And so these people can complain. There's no rule that during hostilities, enemy troops will cross into the other man's territory. Let us look at it the other way around. Suppose you were found in the streets of Douala or Bafusa and Bunda carrying your weapon with the Ambazonian flag. They will kill you. No questions asked. And so the reverse is true with them. They are paid in the right coins. No, our soldiers did nothing wrong. They did not kill unarmed civilians. They killed armaments. So what else is the Royal Army is not supposed to be patrolling down and extorting money from civilians. They are supposed to border controlling their own countries. But the military, because the military is created to fight against foreign enemies, what I did is so parodic, even at the frontier. And so I think we should read our boys seeing what they did. If I can recommend, the Department of Defense know what to do. You should decoration. Perhaps a promotion for the good. Over to you.
Thank you, Barrister. Well, still looking at the climate. All right, welcome back, Commander Zama. We can see your video now as well. But we'll head on to taking a look at the climate still in southern Cameroon. We've seen that the Colonial Divisional Officer for Nkambe, Buea has announced a new and immediate restriction on all motorbike movement into and out of the town. From 9 p.m. to 5 a.m., no motorcycles will be allowed to enter or leave Nkambe until December 31st, 2025, a measure the colonial administration says is intended to reinforce security in the local government area. This proclamation comes at a time when insecurity, kidnappings, and high-tension alerts continue to rise across the Midland and Savannah zones of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia and across even the Atlantic zone. It also follows the widely reported use of motorbikes during the outlawed October 12th French Cameroun presidential election, a period in which the regime relied heavily on motorbike convoys to smuggle ballots, transport agents, and create the illusion of political participation. Now, what makes today's curfew particularly striking is its timing. It directly contradicts recent declarations by French Cameroon loyalists and propagandists who boldly claimed that Nkambe was completely secure, stabilized, and fully under control. If the town is as safe as the colonial narrative insists, the question is why impose a curfew that disrupts livelihoods, restricts movements, and signals fear? Why does a supposedly peaceful town suddenly require such drastic military policing measures? For many Ambazonians, the move suggests a silent acknowledgement by the colonial administrators that the occupation is crumbling from within, that insecurity is rising, and that the colonial system cannot guarantee even the illusion of normalcy without restricting civilians. Local motorbike riders, many of whom rely solely on this trade for survival, they now fear that the curfew will hamper economic activity, obstruct movement of essential goods, and open opportunities for harassment by colonial forces at night checkpoints. Now, the question, having this important report, there are critical questions shaping the national conversation that we'd like to get clarity on. And we'll have to start with you, Barrister Mbeseha. What do these sudden curfews reveal about the colonial regime's actual level of control in Nkambe and across Ambazonia? Would you agree that this curfew actually does signal a deeper recognition by Yaoundé that Ambazonian forces hold effective territorial influence in the southern Cameroons? Barrister Mbeseha.
Well, I think it shows desperation on behalf of the administration. They are purely desperate. Because, for example, this is Nkambe. Nkambe is not a very big town in the first place. The only means of movement there is by bike or on foot. They ask people not to ride their bikes in the evening. You impose a curfew. They cannot move in and out at a certain hour of the night or the evenings. Why? Just because they're in Nkambe? If there's insecurity in Nkambe, which I'm sure is, who told the administrator that the insecurity is caused by bike riders? So motorbikes have become guns? They have become weapons? Or what is it? This sheer desperation. But as you said there rightly, this is Nkambe. This is home to Ngala Gerard and other criminals who sit over there. Their desperation is a sign that they've lost control. In Nkambe in particular, and almost everywhere in Ambazonia. They are desperate. That guy who's sitting there calling himself a divisional officer or the SDO, he's just trying to show you how that he's working. He's just trying to show you how that he's doing something. He's doing nothing. Because he has, for example, we've heard about this in Bororos and so on in Nkambe, roaming down the streets and killing people. They do not use motorbikes. They don't do that only at night. They do it when they want to do it. And the government is doing nothing. All what you know is that sometimes the prefect will issue an order, a statement, not even an order, claiming that investigations are ongoing, whose investigations no results ever come out. It's a sign of desperation. It's a sign of defeat. For the past 8 years, 9 years now, they have failed. They have failed and failed woefully. And so what is happening in Nkambe, and by extension other parts of Ambazonia, is a sign that they have completely failed. Government has collapsed. What they call the authority has collapsed almost everywhere in Ambazonia. And so they take those desperate measures to pretend to tell their bosses in Yaoundé that they are doing something. Remember who these people are. This prefect or sous-prefect or whatever thing you call him is a chef de terre who enjoys his own territory created by presidential decree. And so he has to hang up to that in order to justify his next appointment. Shame unto them. It has not helped them before. It's not going to help them now. Let Mr. Ngala Gerard come there and do it for us. He is an MP. He cannot claim not to be from that part of Nkambe. Because once an MP become a national MP by their own definition. So he's an MP from Nkambe. He is equally an MP for Mbeseha. He's equally an MP for Manyu. But worst of all, he's the first MP in Nkambe. And so it's failure. Government has collapsed. Ambazonia is prevailing. We can only say the people should bear it patiently. There's no way you can control water with your hands. The movement, people will move. I can guarantee you. Because the MP, the prefect doesn't even have the forces to enforce that. They go around chasing every bike rider because of his so-called curfew. What is the difference between today and end of the year? What makes this 2 months different? What has happened from the last 8 years? What does it think that will occur this Christmas time that he needs a curfew? It's pure desperation. Let him wait for the day that he will move out of that place and save himself the pains of taking fruitless actions. Over to you.
Yeah, well emphasized. I'll have to go now to SoS Sylvester. We have the question on in regards to this report. How does the Amazonian defense leadership, like yourself, actually interpret this contradiction? A regime calling Nkambe safe, yet employing such measures as curfews.
Well, they can call it safe. Let them come. Let them go to the nightclub by themselves. We want them to go to the nightclub. We challenge him to walk down to downtown Nkambe by himself, like any other citizen in that area, and he will know what it is, if it's safe enough for him. He comes in there in an armored car. He comes in there with guards, and he says it's safe. That publication that is out there, it's null and void. We are not gonna ask our citizens to abide by that. They'll let them go about their business, and if he likes, let him come and stand out there. We are asking our ASA to enforce any person at night who is disturbing our citizens will be brought to book. We are not going to hamper our citizens' activities because of one lousy senior divisional officer. And remember, he's the head of the military in that part of of Amazonia, and according to our knowledge, they don't have up to 500 soldiers in Nkambe. So the people can literally rout those soldiers. And the time will come when they will get out running or they will go back in their casket, as many of them as possible. We are just working with them. We are working and finding ways to deal with that. But at the end of the day, this will come about because of they are trying to overreach. He's trying to overreach his influence to tell people when they can get up and do their businesses whenever they want. He does not have no control over Ambazonia. We've made it ungovernable for him. Let him just shut up and get his salary and stay safe, because we are coming for him.
All right, thank you. Report for tonight, we see quite the contradiction, and we also see in the news today that there's a controversial justice system. Not that it should be surprising, but it has come to concern when you see, we'll get back into the rest of the report now, when you get to see contradictions and almost like a tug of war in power. We'll be back after a very quick break to ensure that Commander Elvis can still make it, so we have his thoughts on the next report we'll be taking. We'll be back. Well, in our next report, we see that a recent incident at the Buea Colonial Gendarmerie Legion has sparked widespread concern over the rule of law perpetrated by the French Cameroun. Justice Lebong Morpho Epse Chibili, Deputy Prosecutor General at the Court of Appeal, was denied access to the Colonial Gendarmerie facility during a routine inspection. The junior officer on duty cited an internal sporting event as the reason for the denial, despite the team providing official identification and explanations for their visit. The Gendarmerie officers refused to allow the Deputy Prosecutor General to enter the premises, sparking a standoff that required the intervention of the Colonial Legion's colonel. French Cameroun law grants prosecutorial authorities unrestricted access to detention facilities, suggesting that the Gendarmerie's actions may constitute obstruction. But then, this is not a new scenario when it comes to French Cameroon's law, with past cases of senior judicial figures being blocked by junior law enforcement personnel, raising concerns about the enforcement of legal hierarchies. Critics argue that better training, clearer command structure, and respect for judicial mandates are essential to ensuring accountability and upholding the rule of law in the Cameroon. The truth behind the restriction is that this colonial gendarmerie post was hosting innocent Ambazonians abducted illegally to squeeze money from them. Now, that is the alleged report we got for this standoff. Now, looking at this scenario, Barrister Mbeseha, we'll have to start with you again because this is another thing that you have seen and talked about in times past. We're seeing yet again a fallen structure, a failed structure of French Cameroon, sadly still happening in southern Cameroon. And these facilities, detention facilities, hold people they tag as criminals, who in most cases are innocent Ambazonians who were abducted in the name of arrest and called aiders of the Ambazonian State Army or assailants or part of the Ambazonian State Army, and they're arbitrarily arrested. We've seen this one too many times, Barrister Mbeseha, looking at the scenario where now even the subordinate, so to put, is not even respecting hierarchy. Somebody who supposedly has access to this detention facility but is denied because according to the allegations, they have unlawful arrested Ambazonians that they want to hide from this procurer. So Barrister Mbeseha, looking at this entire scenario, we'd like to get a breakdown from you. What do you see here? Please tell us.
Well, I think what obtains in Cameroon is so unusual in the world. You say, if the guy, the Deputy Prosecutor General in Buea, he has the competence over all police and gendarmerie posts throughout the region. If we're just in Buea alone, nobody should be there without the consent or the signature of the prosecutor in charge of the Buea Court of First Instance. And all the courts of first instance and throughout the region are supervised by the Procureur General's office. He has the right. Nobody should even be there, remanded without the consent of the Procureur General, Procureurs first or Procureur Generals. And so if they can violate their own rules, if they can just ignore him, not just ignoring the person, but telling them we're not opening the door, we're in a type of lawless country. It has been happening for a long time. The issue now is what happens when the law is violated. Their own rules are totally violated. What are the consequences? I'm not sure they have any consequences. I remember sometimes in the early 2000s or late 1990s, there was somebody there. They was supposed to be the chief of the Human Rights Division. In fact, it's the Department of Human Rights created by the government. Director General of Human Rights, whose duty was to go visit the prisons or one of those places. He went to a gendarmerie place to inspect what was going on there. What happened? He himself was locked inside there. They locked him up. And he came out crying. Nothing happened to the gendarmes. They are lawless. Nobody punished them. And that's what they have been doing. They've been locking up people at will to extort money from them. If they are women, to extort free sex or to do anything they want to do with impunity. And so that is a lawless country. Absolutely lawless. Otherwise, there's no explanation why the Procureur General of all, not even to say the Procureur of the Court of First Instance, Buea, will come down to the gendarmerie posts and someone will dare to say, you will not allow you in. Who is someone? Who is this one? Or gendarmes, or policemen, these two forces, They are workers under the Procureur General when it comes to investigating crimes or offenses. And their role as gendarmes or police, they're there for public order. That's their role. And therefore, their boss in every area, if it is a division or subdivision, the boss is the procureur. In the whole of the Southwest, they call it, the boss is the Procureur General. In all types of investigations, where you have killed somebody, you're accused of to have done this with amber or whatever thing, their boss is the Procureur General. They cannot flout his authority. He can come there and order everybody locked up there to go away, and they all move out. If I were the procureur, if he knew his job, he would simply go back to his office and write an order that anybody in that cell there should be set free. And they will go out. If you keep them, after the order comes from the procurator's office, that's illegal detention. You'll be liable, criminally and administratively. You should be liable. And so, is it new? It's not new. Why? Because lawlessness has become the order of the day. If the laws were followed, there's no reason why somebody should even be there without the consent, without the signature of the procureur. And of course, the procureur will not just leave the office and go down there. He has to pass through the procureur of the court of first instance of that town. Because that's the immediate boss. He's the superior boss. If he's going to Kumba, for example, to see the police in Kumba or the gendarmes, he has to tell the procureur in Kumba, or Bamenda, as the case might be, that I'm coming. That's the superior boss. And they have to obey the orders. That's just what it is. If they are doing that, then, again, lawlessness has taken over the country. Where there's no law, disorder becomes the rule. Where there's no law, criminality takes the streets and takes everybody in custody. And so that is madness. That guy should be sanctioned and sanctioned properly. Probably dismissed from the job. Because you cannot allow individuals to use their offices. If you find out why he did that, why you not let those people visit those people, it's simply because they've done something wrong. Maybe somebody is being kept there illegally for not giving them money or for anything, which is just illegal. Because when the procureur comes there, he talks to the people. What are you here for? He explains why you're there. He looks at the files. There should be documentation why you're there. If this is not done, it is an overstretch. It is total failure of government. It's complete breakdown of law and order. Over to you.
Mbeseha, you've said some very wise words there. And one of them I picked is, when there is no law, criminality takes to the streets, which will lead us to our next report. But Commander Zama, let's hear if you have something to add to what Barrister said.
I don't think Barrister, who is a barrister at law, has handled it best he knows. I don't know. I've been out of Cameroon for a long time, so I don't know what's the current working of that system.
All right. So building up from what Barrister Tim Mbeseha said, talking about the fact that it proves to be a lawless nation where there is no law, disorder follows. Where there is no law, criminality takes to the street. We're seeing the discovery of the decapitated body of Papa Ndang Pius Ngay in the bushes of Wum, which has shaken the community and reopened long-standing tensions in southern Cameroun. The killing, which has not been independently verified, has drawn immediate speculations from residents, eyewitnesses, and observers, each offering different interpretation of what might have happened and why. Some locals at the scene believe the attack bears the signature of Mbororo Fulani militia activity, pointing to a long history of friction between farming communities and certain armed Fulani groups over grazing routes, land destruction, and reoccurring clashes. For years, farmers have reported situations where crops were trampled or destroyed by cattle, and confrontations sometimes escalated into violence and deaths of these farmers. Now, these past incidents form part of why some community members instinctively draw a line between this killing and previous conflict. However, there are also counter-arguments cautioning against quick conclusions. Members of the broader Mbororo community and voices within civil society warn that not every violent incident in that particular area can or should be attributed to the Fulani militia groups. They argue that generalizing entire communities based on the actions of a few individuals is dangerous, feeds prejudice, and oversimplifies a very complex conflict environment. There is also the political dimension, one that Ambazonians have witnessed repeatedly. And that is colonial loyalist networks or CPDM-aligned elements who have previously been accused of manipulating these Fulani militias as proxies. They might have an interest in disrupting the territorial defense efforts of the Ambazonian State Army using these Mbororos. Historically, there have also been reports, again not always independently verified, of Fulani groups being used strategically to attack or destabilize areas where Ambazonian Defense Forces, the Ambazonian State Army, are active. Now, this raises several uncomfortable but important questions. If this killing was intended to provoke communal anger, who benefits from such chaos at a time when Ambazonia forces are consolidating influence on the ground? Could this be a targeted attack designed to fracture relations between farmers and Mbororo herders? Two groups that have coexisted for decades with a lot of tension. Or is this simply another tragic escalation in the long history of land use disputes that have turned deadly in the past? At the same time, critics warn that speculation without evidence risks inflaming divisions, urging investigators and community leaders to avoid premature narratives that could deepen mistrust. But then for Ambazonians observing these unfolding perspectives, the situation highlights the complexity of the struggle. Multiple actors, overlapping interests, and a battleground where perception, propaganda, and hidden agendas all play powerful roles. Now, what remains undisputed certainly is the grief. A family mourns, a community is unsettled, and yet another incident reminds Southern Cameroonians of how fragile life remains in a space contested not only by armed actors, but by narratives competing for legitimacy. We'll start with you again, Barrister Mbeseha, since you've also delved deeply into this story before. This is another case of an individual lying lifeless, beheaded. And according to the eyewitness, they already pointed to the trademarks of Mbororos. But then the Mbororo brothers, who are not the armed set of Mbororos, say otherwise. So looking at the entire scenario, is this just the result of what you mentioned earlier, where there is no law, disorder follows, and criminality taken to the street? Or is there something more that is behind this sad reality?
Well, in addition to the lawlessness, it is also a political weapon being used by the government. See, the Mbororos and the other people did not start existing together today. They were there in southern Cameroun days. They've all reared cows, and other farmers farm their crops. Why and how did this happen that they are killing one another? Is it that the farmer grazier dispute over there is unsolvable? No. If it is not solved, it is because government does not want to solve it. How many cows are even there? Those of us who live in the West, how many times have you seen cows moving down the streets? There are more cows in Belgium, in the United States, in England, in France, than they have in all of the Cameroon put together. But you don't find the fighting there. It's a problem that could have been regulated within hours if the government wants to do it. If you want to wreck cows, so be it. But it's your own parcel of land. If the people don't have money even to buy the back wire, government can do that as assistance. Cows don't run across back wire. You fence your cows, you grow the grass there, they eat and they live there. They live within a confined space. But when you allow cows to roam the streets, move down and eat people's crops, expect those tensions to be. What are the cows eating your crops for? The cows are just hungry. They are freelanders. They are just landing in. They are free breeders. They are breeding anywhere they can find grass, anything they can find something to eat. Why has the government not regulated this problem forever and ever? In the 1960s, before we joined this people, we never heard about farmer grazier issues. They were well documented. They were well regulated. Farmers knew where they ended. The graziers knew where their cows were allowed to graze the grass. And so it is a political tool government is using, that's my opinion, to keep the people divided. The people know each other. And so back to this story of this gentleman who is decapitated. That's the most awful crime you can commit on somebody. It don't just kill the person, it cut off his head. If they are the borrowers, we shouldn't know. Are these people so savages? Are they savages? There's the difference between killing somebody and then decapitating the person. That marks something awful, very painful death. Thing that is not supposed to be done by civilians. It's not a gunshot. To decapitate somebody, you can't do with the cutlass and cut off his head or her head. It's not one cup. You cut 2-3 times before the thing goes off. So why did it get down to this level? We don't know. But this is not the first. This is not the second. It is not the third. Many things have occurred like that. And so the question we'll ask again, back to your issue is, what is the government doing? What are all these duos? What are all these prefects doing there? One of the roles of the prefect is to manage land. They are the chair of the land consultative boards. To go there and say this is where you end. This is boundary for you. They are not doing it. Is it because they don't know? They know it. They know what to do, but they're not doing it. Is it so difficult for them to do it? Certainly not. But why are they not doing it? Because they want to set the people against themselves, to distract. So they may not, for example, others are running asking for water. We don't have water, we don't have electricity. So we find in Tico, find out somewhere else. That's already a burden for them. But if the borrowers and the food and whatever you call them, that can occupy themselves, fighting among themselves, they will not come to the prefect. That would have spared them some time. And so, why is it only in Ambazonia? I've always asked. Why are they not doing the same thing in Garoua? There are more cows up there. There are more cows in Gandari, in Betaro Oya. Why is it only happening in our own area? Where there's already war, people are being killed, then the surrogates of government are killing others in the name of farmer grazing. It cannot be a coincidence. It is negligent or it is directly planned. That's my view about that. And so, again, as you find it, that's the end of it. What the best you will get out the next day is investigations are ongoing. Nobody investigates anything. If it was investigated, nobody will come out with the results. A good example to conclude. We remember in Garabu, the government armed the borrowers. They admitted doing it. Then they were asked, where are the borrowers you armed and the arms you gave them? What was their response? We don't know where they are. They disappeared with them. How will you give arms to people who go down and kill people, burn houses, and then when confronted, they say don't know where the guns are? Are you not an accomplice? You're an accomplice. And so that is the reason why we have to fight against this nonsense. That man is one too much. It's one too many to risk his life for over nothing. And so we have to fight this thing until we get our independence. Farmer grazier issues, we can manage them. We know what to do. We always did before we purportedly joined them. We shall continue to do it. We feel sorry for that family. We just hope that the guy will rest in peace. And then as a way forward. We encourage people who live there. If government has ignored their problem, they can solve their problem themselves. It pays you not to kill your brother because of grass that cows eat. It pays you nothing to kill your brother because a cow came and ate your corn. That can be resolved. It can be compensated financially. It should not be something that takes away someone's life. It should be discouraged. But a good Ambazonia, when we get to Ambazonia, we will manage those things. We will regulate it. Those things, if they will not end completely, we will minimize them as far as we can. Over to you.
Mbeseha, indeed, it should be fought to the root causes. Now, Commander Zama, you've heard the stories, even if you've not been in Ambazonia for a while, but you've heard the stories of the Mberoros or the farmer-grazier conflict. And looking at this most recent one, would like to get your thoughts on that.
We have the Mberoros all over the northern territories, and in my village, we had them as neighbors. We were living orderly pretty well, no problems. They bought crops from us, we bought animals from them. We bought chicken, we bought goat from them. There was no problem. I think the problem that's having is they're trying to pit these communities together to kill each one of them. And we've seen this thing happen over and over in Ndonga-Mantum division especially. But I would just want to say, like I said last week, the chiefs of these communities should sit down, and if it's in the pure situation of differences between grazier and farmers, those things could be settled, like Barrister Mbeseha said. Those things could be arranged. But once these people are radicalized by some elements of the CPDM, like Gerangala, it makes some of these people go out and behead people. Beheading is very common with some Islamic faith. They do that, but I'm not saying that this particular case is done by them. But we have to try to keep this thing to not be a communal war between our two communities. But for those who have been radicalized and they're coming to kill our people, our ASAs will be at watch day and night for these people. If they are coming to kill and maim our people, they will not be treated any different from the enemy. They will not be treated any different from La Republique or any bandit who has a gun to kill people. We will go after them. But my heart goes out to the family of Gay, who was decapitated, and to all the other people who have been killed in that area of the country. We want your community to be at peace, and that's why we have our Ambazonia State Army in that community. Tell the people, the citizens of that community should work with the ASAs to get some of these things intervention early so that it doesn't come to people being killed. We want to have a peaceful relationship with the people in that community, and we've always been one. And let not be deceived by people like Gerald Gada, who is sitting in comfortable suites in Washington, D.C., or in Douala, or in other parts of the world, with stolen wealth from our citizens. We should learn to understand that that place is the only place we have. We are no different. They're not going to be treated any different in La Republique than Ambazonians are treated. They would look at them all as Ambazonians. We had one of our friends who used to be a minister, Musa. Musa died last year or a couple of years ago, but he was a decent person who was from that community, and we want them to understand that we want to live together. We've never had any issues, and let nobody push them to be enemies.
Very wise one there to the Mberoros. Nobody should push them to be enemies with their neighbors. Very well said, Commander Zama. Very well said, Barrister Tim Mbeseha. As always, it was indeed insightful having you join us on Undaunted tonight. But this is where we draw the curtains with you to a close. Thank you for joining in.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
We'll be heading next to the African scene where we see what's happening with Africa. In Africa, Tanzania will not hold its annual Independence Day celebrations next month, opting instead to redirect the allocated funds towards repairing infrastructure damaged during last month's election-related unrest. The decision was announced Monday by Prime Minister. Now, that decision was announced on Monday by the Prime Minister, who is Mwigulu Nchemba, as tensions continue to rise following the disputed general elections on 29th October. Now, according to the government, resources originally set aside for the 9th December festivities will be used to rebuild public facilities and restore essential services affected by widespread violence that erupted during and after the polls. The clashes, which followed allegations of electoral irregularities, resulted in mass killings, and that has drawn national and international concerns. The cancellation comes as opposition groups and civil society organizations intensify calls for citizens to gather on Independence Day to protest the killings and demand accountability. The planned demonstrations have heightened political pressure on the government and raised fears of renewed unrest. Authorities have urged the public to remain calm, stressing that the redirection of funds reflects the country's urgent need for recovery and stability. However, with public anger still simmering, the run-up to 9 December is expected to be closely watched both within Tanzania and across the region. Now over to the global scene. On the foreign scene, Pope Leo will depart on Thursday for Turkey and Lebanon on his first trip outside of Italy as head of the Catholic Church, embarking on a mission aimed at promoting peace in a region strained by conflict and deep religious divisions. The visit, running from November 27th to December 2nd, will introduce the first United States-born Pope to foreign governments and several sensitive religious and cultural sites, as he seeks to underscore themes of interfaith dialogue and Christian unity. Pope Leo's predecessor Francis had hoped to visit both countries but cancelled due to deteriorating health. Francis died on April 21st, and Leo, originally from Chicago, was elected on May 8. Now, a Pope's inaugural foreign trip traditionally draws global attention, and Leo's journey is expected to set the tone for his diplomatic priorities. Analysts say that the visit comes at a time when the region faces acute humanitarian needs, sectarian tensions, and geopolitical rivalries. From November 27th to 30th, the Pope will be in Turkey, where he will hold joint events with Patriarch Bartholomew, the spiritual leader of the world's 260 million Orthodox Christians. The two leaders will mark the 1700th anniversary of the First Council of Nicaea, an event foundational to Christian doctrine. Now, Leo is also expected to visit Istanbul's Blue Mosque, his first visit as Pope to a Muslim place of worship, and celebrate Mass at the Volkswagen Arena following high interest that exceeded the capacity of the city's cathedral. Turkey's Catholic population is estimated at about 36,000 out of 85 million people. The Pope's visit to Lebanon, a country with the highest proportion of Christians in the Middle East, comes as it grapples with economic collapse, political paralysis, and the continued fallout from the 2020 Beirut port explosion. The trip also follows an Israeli airstrike on Sunday that killed a senior Hezbollah commander, despite a year-old U.S. broker truce. While we see Lebanese leaders hope the papal visit will draw renewed international attention to the country's suffering and instability. In Beirut, Leo will pray at the site of the port explosion, lead an inter-religious gathering, and celebrate an outdoor mass on the waterfront. His itinerary spans 5 towns and cities, though he will not travel to southern Lebanon, which has been the target of repeated strikes. Although Pope Leo has adopted a more reserved communication style than Francis, preferring prepared texts and limiting interviews, his visit carries risks common to papal travel, where unscripted moments can generate controversy or diplomatic impact. In October, an informal exchange at the Vatican highlighted security concerns when Queen Rania of Jordan asked the pontiff if Lebanon was safe to visit, and Leo responded briefly but affirmed his commitment to the journey. Several Orthodox leaders are expected to attend the Nicaea anniversary event. However, the Moscow Patriarchate, closely allied with Russian President Vladimir Putin and estranged from Bartholomew since 2018, and is not expected to participate. In Lebanon, Catholic charity leaders say the papal visit is viewed as a gesture of solidarity, reinforcing for many citizens what they are not forgotten, the fact that they are not forgotten despite years of hardship. And in Australia, we see its Senate on Tuesday suspended far-right Senator Pauline Hanson for 7 sitting days after she entered the chamber wearing a burqa in a renewed attempt to push for a public ban on the Muslim garment. Hanson wore the covering in Parliament on Monday after being refused permission to introduce a bill targeting burqas and other face coverings in public spaces. The move drew immediate criticism from lawmakers, including Muslim members of parliament who said the act was offensive to the country's Islamic community. The Senate passed a censure motion against Hanson by 55 votes to 5. Foreign Minister Penny Wong said the action undermined social cohesion and disrespected Australians who observe the Islamic faith. Well, One Nation, Hanson's party, has expanded its Senate presence to 4 seats after gains in May election, and opinion polls indicated its support has risen further. Hanson defended her actions, arguing there was no formal dress code for Parliament and questioning why burqas should be treated differently from other face coverings restricted in certain venues. Well, Hanson, who was a senator for Queensland, first gained national prominence in the 1990s for her opposition to immigration from Asia and has long campaigned against Islamic clothing. The incident marks the second time she has worn a burqa in Parliament, repeating a similar protest in 2017. Well, this has been the Flash News, but before we go, let's take a look at our major headlines. On Undaunted tonight, we brought to you Ambazonian State Army claiming defensive actions in Serb village as they eliminate 2 trespassing colonial forces. And we see the colonial DO also imposing night motorbike ban in Nkambe despite claims of total security. French Cameroon's justice system in turmoil as Gendarmerie obstructs prosecutors' inspection in Buea. Now, we also saw the sad news of a decapitated body found in womb, which raised questions over motive, identity, and hidden interest. On the African scene, we saw Tanzania diverting Independence Day funds amid unrest and calls for nationwide protests. On the foreign scene, Pope Leo begins his first overseas trip with peace missions to Turkey and Lebanon. Well, this has been the Flash News. Want to say thank you for joining in. On behalf of the entire Undaunted crew, we say that thank you for joining in. Until next time, we'll leave you with ABC Amba TV images. Good night and God bless you.